garden. In today's video I'll be talking to you about how to build a budget chicken setup and how this can be used in the garden to cycle nutrients and reduce weeds and pest pressures. So as you can see, I'm sat in the polytunnel because it's a bit wet today outside, and all this lovely soil around me has been scratched up by the chickens, and you know, the chickens will defecate in it, adding high nutrient manure into the ground, as well as removing any weed seeds and pests from the current manure or soil that you've got in place. So this decreases pests and weeds, but it also adds nutrients back to the soil. So you know, they're sort of like little composting machines almost. They're really good to have in the garden, and I'm already enjoying having them, and I've only had them about 2 weeks now. A chicken coop is a really important factor, and I've had a look online before buying my chickens, and they could be anywhere between 150 and 400 pounds for a 3 to 4 hen coop, which, you know, they're not a massive coop, but it's a lot of money. And often the cheaper ones were just a frame of timber for any one panel with a bit of plywood or MDF inserted into it, which is a really cheap and poor way of making a shed, because over time that will rot, the ply will rot easily and leave you with no choice but to replace the shed for extensive repair. So I decided to build my own, and it only cost me about £60 because all the wood, I could reclaim the wood using various different bits that were lying around the farm. All the cladding was pallet planks, and the only thing I had to buy was the hinges, the latches, that sort of stuff, the hardware to fix it all together, some screws because I'm short on screws. Some considerations to put into a chicken coop if you're building your own. The perches should be quite a wide perch. Many online are only about 2 inches wide, but the wider you can do a perch, the better in a way, because then in the frost, instead of a chicken's foot being down like that and her feathers only covering the top half of her foot, if her foot is flatter, then the lower feathers will cover more of her foot, and there's less chance of her having frostbite in their toes. Another thing with the perches or the roost bars, they should be higher than the nest box, because if the nest box is higher, a chicken's instinct is to perch higher than it nests. And it may be a case of, if the nest box is higher than the perches, she'll feel safer in the nest box and sleep there at night. This results in a mucky nest box, which in turn makes dirty eggs when they lay in a dirty box. Whereas having the perches higher up, they feel safer on the perch, and the nest boxes are clean. Mine have been in the shed now the best part of a week, because they were in here for a week. They've been in there the best part of a week, and there's not a single dropping in the nest box. The straw is still clean, and hopefully that straw could be left in there for a good while before it will need changing, or it could just be changed out of, you know, good habit, more than it needs cleaning because it's dirty. You should also ensure that your nest boxes are large enough that your hens will fit in there with your comfort. Normal nest boxes are around 8 inches square. I've done mine 12 inches square, just to give the hens a bit more wiggle room. If 2 or 3 want to fit into the nest box, all 3 could fit into the nest box at once. But they have made a little dip in the straw in the back, and they all seem to lay in that dip, so I'm not too worried about that. They all fit and they all are happy in there. The base should be easy to clean. If you have lots of little planks, where the planks meet, there will inevitably be little gaps where manure could build up in, and that could be unhygienic, but also an area for pests to hide. So what I've done is I've put buffalo board, which is a plastic coated plywood that is outside, it's suitable for external use. I put a bit of that on the floor and up the sides that will create a bit of a tray for any manure to sit in, and the shavings, and that way I can clean them out easier and more hygienically. The sides are still wooden cladded, but I'm hoping that no manure should stick to the sides because it won't get in contact, being that there's almost a skirting board of buffalo board around the sides. All your wood should be treated as you go in. I use linseed oil. I say as you go in because if you do a frame, I coated the frame before I moved on to cladding, and this means that everywhere where the planks are hiding the boards, they're still oiled as well. It's not just where you can see is being oiled. And then in the end, I'd oil everything you can see again. Also, once a year, you should treat the timber to make it last longer. Linseed oil is safe for chickens. They can peck at the wood and it won't do them any harm. But honestly, as long as they're fed properly and they've got constant access to food, they're not going to see need to peck at the wood. Maybe if they're scratching their beak, they might just rub on the sides, but nothing major would occur for doing holes in it, apart from rodents. Now, if a chicken coop is built with the floor touching the ground, it could create a space for rodents to hide underneath in the day, and then they might scratch through and burrow into the chicken coop. So a good idea is to put your chicken coop on legs, and this way there's no hiding space underneath the coop for rodents, and the chickens will be able to forage underneath the coop as well. Also in the summer, it'll be a good place for the chickens to create a dust bath because it'll be dry under there. So it's got added advantages as well because they can use it as a dust bath. All your doors should have either hasps and staples, which is the opening plate that goes over a staple. They're good on nest boxes where you want to open the lid. Or the other option is a bolt, tower bolt latch. They're good for doors that are opening like a house door, then opening sideways on hinges. You should also have little hooks on any sliding doors that you do, and this will just protect your hens at night, because it's not so much you want to keep your hens in, it's more you want to keep predators out. So over-engineer everything is my way of looking at it. Put bigger hinges than you need, put bigger tower bolts than you need, bigger hasps than you need, bigger hooks that you need, and this way you know your hens are safe at night. I'd also personally put little hooks to hold the door open if you're mucking your hens out. The last thing you want is the door to keep shutting on itself. So I've got a little hook that goes into the top of the door, and this just stops the door shutting on itself when I'm mucking out. You could even have things to hold your nest box lid open if you had a lot of chickens that you had to have a lot of eggs out. I've only got 3, so I can pick them all up with one hand and hold the lid with another, so it doesn't worry me too much to have something holding the nest box open. If I was keeping the nest box out, maybe I'd take a bit of timber with me to just prop it up. As for a run, you should have a mesh run to put your chickens in case of bird flu, or if you want to keep them protected, if you're away for a long time, maybe a day or two, and you won't be able to get to your chickens, having a run that you can lock them in, that they can go in and out, and they'll probably just go home at night, and they'll be safe, that no pests can get at them, or predators more than anything can get at them if you have to leave the coop door open for extended periods. This should be made out of mesh, preferably, you know, 1 inch, 2 inch squares. I've had to do mine out of 3 inch gabion meshing, which is the big boxes that they fill stones into to hold banks back. Now, it does the job, but I won't be leaving my chickens unattended, hopefully, so it'll do fit for purpose. The lid should open to get access to the water and the grit for easy filling of the water and the grit, which you want outside of the coop, but the food should be kept inside to keep pests down, such as rats, because everything in your coop should be lockable at night, so the food is locked away with the chickens. A little chicken sized door on the run is also a good feature to let the chickens out, so that the chickens can come out of the coop, out of the run, and out into a larger area. I have bought, to make a large run for the chickens, is green security meshing. Now, you might see your local council using the orange version on the side of the road. It's like a plasticky material, and it almost looks like a sheet of plastic that's been stretched in places to make loops. I think it's about 50 pence a metre. I paid £26 for 50 metres on Amazon. It's not too expensive, and 50 metres should be ample for 3 hens, but you could always buy multiples. You'll also want good quality fencing posts. Probably the best bet is electric fencing posts, which have little notches every few inches, few centimetres up the post, which you can clip your wire into. You could go for wooden posts and knock them in the ground and staple the fencing to, but if you want it to be temporary and you want your hens to be able to move around, it's probably not the best bet, unless you could wiggle the posts out, roll it up, posts and wire, and then knock it back down. But you'd have more of a job like that than if you had the plastic electric fence posts, and they're not too bad. They're about £2 to £3 each. For 50 metres you might want 15, 20 perhaps, but your netting and your posts are probably your most expensive outlay in keeping hens on a budget. Feed, mixed corn and layers pellets, it's about £20 2 bag for the both, so about £10 each, and they don't eat that much. I think I read in the chicken book that I've got, that around 60% of a chicken's diet comes from its surroundings, so they're only actually eating 40% of their diet a day is what you're buying for them, be it the corn and the layers pellets. I tend to give mine a little pot of corn a day, and then they've got ad lib layers pellets in a hopper, and they'll peck at that through the day. Then they also need constant supply of water, and make sure your water's clean, because a chicken will instinctively peck at any water it sees, even if it's a mucky puddle in the corner. So you want to make sure that where they're running around is got no muddy puddles in it, and if there are, just chuck a bit of soil over it to dry it up and bury it, and make sure their water is clean at all times, because a chicken will peck at any water regardless of whether it's dirty or not, and you don't really want them picking up illnesses out of really dirty water. I change my water every day. I tip it out into the water butt or into the garden, not to waste it, but I like to keep their water clean, and make sure you scrub it with a brush in the summer, especially because algae can build up in there if you're using well water or spring water or off a roof, that sort of stuff. It can build up on algae. I think that's it for today. I will be talking more about the chickens, because quite enjoying these chickens now. And so yeah, I'll see you again next week.